A mesmerizing sunset with the endless dunes of the Sahara. The historic Medina of Fez. The lush forest of Arzu. A desert safari. The snow-capped Atlas Mountains. The green valleys. The Gorge of Todra. The World Heritage Kasbahs of 8 Ben Haddou. The famous markets of Marrakesh. The most beautiful riads and more. This is Majestic, Morocco. This is amazing Africa. In this travelogue, Gigi and I will take you to a journey of a lifetime. For the first time, we finally travel to Africa, and the destination, Morocco. Our African expedition starts in Manila via Turkish Airlines. Our flight will take us to Istanbul in Turkey for a layover before we finally fly to Casablanca, Morocco. We were given a most unexpected treat when we were upgraded to business class. This made the intercontinental journey much more comfortable. After 12 or so hours, we found ourselves back in one of our favorite places on earth, Turkey. We explored the country back in 2019, and yes, that too was a most unforgettable trip. We took the time to rest and explore the new Istanbul International Airport. And then it was finally time to continue our journey. And after 5 or so hours, we finally set foot on Africa. Touchdown, Casablanca, Morocco. We have just arrived in Morocco.
Yeah, hello Hassan.
How are you? Welcome to Morocco.
Yay!
We were welcomed by our tour guide, who we now regard as our friend Hassan. Hassan owns and operates the Real Morocco Adventures Tour Company. With a private 4x4 car, we embark on a 7-day Real Morocco adventure. After a quick briefing, we leave the modern city of Casablanca for a 4-hour drive to the spiritual city of Fez, our first exploration stop in this expedition. By the evening, we were in Fez and settled at Riyad Yamanda. This was our first time to enter a riad. A riad is a traditional Moroccan house or palace with an interior garden or courtyard laid with the most exquisite Moroccan and Andalusian art. For dinner, we feasted on local Moroccan dishes such as the chicken and meat tagine along with local Moroccan spices. And then, it was time to retire for the night. For tomorrow, we discover the most historical and cultural city in Morocco. Fez is a northeastern Moroccan city a little over 200 kilometers from the Strait of Gibraltar, often referred to as the country's cultural capital. It is known for its Fez El Bali walled Medina with medieval architecture, vibrant souks or markets, and old world atmosphere. After a most sumptuous breakfast, we met with our tour guide, Sir Lassan. He gave us a quick overview of the places we will visit and the experiences we will go through for the day. Sir Lasan is perhaps the most famous and respected tour guides in Fez. He seems to know everyone as we weave through the market alleys of the Fez Medina. We finally arrived at the Madrasa Bu Inania. The Madrasa Bu Inania is one of few religious buildings where non-Muslims can enter in Morocco. The Islamic school, founded in the 14th century, is beautifully decorated with intricate carvings and tilework. With a quick drive and a relaxed walk, we toured the Royal Palace in Fez with its unique architecture and intricate door designs. Afterwards, we headed to an old city tower lookout atop a hill for a panoramic view of the Medina. Here, Sir Lasan tells us more about the heritage of the city of Fez.
Tower or the fortress, it is called the Southern Castle or Borj Sud in French. Straight ahead, we came from the King's Palace, you can see with that green pyramid shape, which is opposite to the Jewish section with a Jewish cemetery which is white of that. Straight ahead with that tower, that is the French city or the Ville Nouvelle.
From the watchtower, we headed back to the Medina to visit a local ceramic factory. A curator walks us through the disciplined process of creating ceramic by local artisans who employ both art and craft to produce the most beautiful ceramics exported all over the world. And of course, I did not pass the chance to mold one myself. We capped the visit with a stop at their local showroom and some Moroccan coffee. By midday, we headed to a local restaurant for lunch. We found ourselves in another nice riad. This time, we tried their local skewers, and yes, more olives, dates, and spices. By early afternoon, we settled at one of the many alley cafes in the Medina for tea. Here, we simply relaxed, enjoyed good company and conversation, blended with the people to fully experience their culture. Later in the day, we visited the famous Chawara tanneries, the largest leather workshop in the city, built in the 11th century. The most notable feature of Chawara and the other local tanneries are the numerous stone vats filled with different colored dyes and white liquids. Hides of cows, sheep, goats, and camels are processed by first soaking them in white liquids, made from various mixtures of cow urine, pigeon feces, quicklime, salt, and water in order to clean and soften the tough skins. This process takes 2 to 3 days and prepares the hides to readily absorb the dyes. The resulting leather is then sold to other craftsmen who use it to produce Morocco's famed leather goods. The leather goods produced in the tanneries are exported around the world. We concluded our stroll of the Medina with a visit to a local weaving store where the colorful and unique garments of Morocco come out. By day's end, we make a quick visit to another beautiful riad just before the place where we are staying. Then we headed back home. We concluded our full experience of Fez with grateful hearts. As Sir Lasan puts it, God made heavens and the earth, and He made Fez. By the next day, it was time to hit the road again. We are going to the Sahara, and along the way, we continue to discover Morocco and explore North Africa. The changing landscapes were breathtaking as we head to the Middle Atlas Mountains. Our first stop is the city of Infran. It is referred to as the Switzerland of North Africa. The weather here is much cooler. Hassan tells us that it can be grueling cold with deep snow covers here during wintertime. But for now, we took our time exploring the neighborhood during this cool mid-spring time. After coffee, we headed deeper into the Mid-Atlas. We stopped at the cedar forest of Arzu with its towering trees. We were welcomed by Arzu's residents, the barbarian monkeys. Coming down from the Mid-Atlas, we headed for lunch along the way at a local restaurant. We can tell we are nearing the Sahara as the landscape morphed into arid desert lands. Our drive was slow and careful as we encountered a midday light sandstorm. It made visibility extremely poor. We continued our journey, passing through beautiful rock formations. And then we arrive at the Ziz River. The Ziz River traverses Morocco and Algeria. Its water source is in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco and flows hundreds of kilometers in the Sahara Desert in Algeria. Before our final push to the Sahara, we stopped at the Ziz Valley. And then we danced with the Berbers, the people of North Africa. We will get to know them more as we go deep into the Sahara. The final leg of this day's trip made us pass local Berber villages and valleys of date palms before arriving in Merzouga in the Sahara. We arrived early evening in Merzouga and settled at the beautiful Riyad Azawad. The Sahara evening was calm and peaceful, our first glimpse of the Sahara Desert. Waking up to a Saharan sunrise in Africa is an experience like no other. The peace, the quiet, the majesty makes you feel grounded, connected. And of course, I took the time to swim in the desert. After breakfast, we headed to Kamlia village, where we experienced African music called Gnawa, played by the people originally from native Africa.
Abrigo! Yee!
After the music and dancing, we head out to the African Desert Safari. Gigi took the time to drive the 4x4 across the Sahara Desert. The off-road took us to the Black Desert behind the Erg Shabi sand dunes. We visited an abandoned village near the Algerian border where a mine for mineral fossils used to thrive. Afterwards, we drove to spend time with the nomadic Berber families for a closer encounter with nomadic life in the desert. Berbers are the indigenous people of Northwest Africa. They are descendants of an ancient race that has inhabited Morocco and much of northern Africa since Neolithic times. For lunch, Hassan invited us to his beautiful Berber village. We met with his lovely family. They welcomed us to their home and we broke bread. I must say this was one of the highlights of this trip as we immersed deeper into Berber culture and Berber life. We absolutely loved the Berber pizza. By late afternoon, we got ready for our camel caravan across the Sahara Desert. And there we were, mounted on our camels, ready to traverse the Great Sahara Desert. We settled on top of one of the dunes to watch the golden Saharan sunset and listen to the sound of the desert. It is true what was said. In the quiet of the desert, you hear the voice of God. The desert is truly an extension of the inner silence of the body. As day turned to night in the Sahara, we made our way to our camp. Here, we rest for the night underneath a moonlit Sahara night.
Is Ali.
Hello, Ali.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Wow.
Hi, Ali. Are you a genie?
Yes.
In a bottle.
How are you?
Very good.
How are you doing? Good?
Wow, you
Hello,
have
Clark. So this is our room.
nice. You hang your clothes there. Oh, you have a bathroom, toilet, and a shower in the desert. Okay. There is the Sahara.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Late in the evening, we ended the day joining the Berbers around the fire with Saharan music, sounds, and dances. An ode to the desert night. Sunrise in the Sahara is breathtaking. There are no words, only silence, a quiet spirit, and a grateful heart. We enjoyed breakfast at the main tent prepared by the good fellows of Milky Way Desert Camp Group. They were the most amazing hosts in the Sahara Desert. After breakfast, it was time to hit the road again. Today, we make our way to the city of Ouarzazate. Bye, Sahara!
Next time.
Yes. Thank you. Our first stop is the Risani Market to check out local goods and crafts. Here, Gigi was extremely happy to get her traditional Berber desert sandals. These sandals were worn by the Berbers to cross deserts and mountains since ancient times. From Risani, we explored an ancient irrigation system constructed by the ancient Berbers to gather and funnel water to their villages. Later in the day, we continue on and reached the Todra Valley. The Todra Valley stretches for miles long. The lush farmlands are irrigated by the Todra River. A short drive from the valley, we reach the stunning Todra Gorge. Situated on the east side of the high Atlas Mountains in Morocco, the Todra Gorge is one of the world's most spectacular canyons. Here, both the Todra and Dadis rivers have carved out cliff-sided canyons on their final 25-mile stretch through the mountains, leaving behind a series of reliefs and etches in the rock. The canyons are tackled by rock climbers from all over the world. We settled for lunch at a jungle oasis at the foot of the gorge. After lunch, we drove further south and along the way passed by Berber villages and the Dadis Valley. Late in the afternoon, we continued driving along the road of 1,000 kasbahs. Every Moroccan village has a kasbah where either the ruling sheikh or king once lived. Generally, they look like mud castles with walls made of layered dirt and stone, with high walls and very few windows. And then, we finally reached the city of Ouarzazate. Here, we marveled at Kasbah Taurirte, where ancient caravans from Europe and Asia would make their stops before continuing deep into the African continent. We stayed at the beautiful Hotel Riyad Damlal. We rest here for the night before continuing on with our African expedition. After breakfast the next day, we visited the nearby Atlas Studios, the Hollywood of Morocco, where some of the most iconic Saharan, Persian, and Egyptian films are made. After our studio tour, we continued our journey and reached the ancient Kasbah of 8 Ben Hadou. This fortified walled city was built right on the path of caravans between Marrakesh and the Sahara. It was once a thriving trading post in the 17th century. Inside the huge mud walls are 6 kasbahs and a small number of houses. Eight Ben Hadou has appeared in several movies, including The Gladiator and Lawrence of Arabia. You will also recognize the city's main entrance as it was used as the city of Yunkai in the HBO series Game of Thrones. Eight Ben Hadou is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We continued our drive up the high Atlas passes, through stunning valleys, changing landscapes, and passing through more Berber villages. The temperature has gone a lot cooler up in the mountains as we see a bit of snow cover along the mountain slopes and peaks. After lunch, we visited a local shop where they make argan oil. Taken from the kernels of the argan tree, mostly in the Atlas Mountains, it's a natural plant oil that's been around for generations in Morocco. Traditionally used in the country in both cooking and cosmetic processes, it's historically been a mainstay of hair and skin care for Moroccan women. Our expedition continued on past the Atlas Mountains. Along the way, we made some stops just to take in some of the most stunning views. And even for some four-legged pedestrians crossing. We finally arrive in Marrakesh. We navigated through the busy yet charming alleys of the market square to reach our riad right at the heart of the Medina. And as soon as we got there, we were welcomed by the sweet aroma of Moroccan tea. The inside of the riad offered Morocco's charming appeal to guests and travelers from across the world. We had the whole afternoon and evening to ourselves, so we simply relaxed and enjoyed our walks at the main square, Jima El Efna, and the souks or markets of the Medina. By the evening, we found ourselves at the terrace of a local restaurant overlooking the market square. After dinner, we took to the square to enjoy the theater of the streets, buzzing with snake charmers, musicians, acrobats, storytellers, and magicians. We headed back to our riad for some Moroccan tea before hitting the sack. Good night for now, Marrakesh. We will see more of you tomorrow. Early the next day, we met our local guide, Amit. We start exploring the heart of Marrakesh, one of the country's imperial cities, referred to as the Red City due to its red sandstone buildings. Today's first stop, the Kutabaya Mosque. Soaring over Marrakesh and the meeting point in the heart of the city, the Kutabaya Mosque was built during the 12th century by the Almohad dynasty. Today, at 70 meters high, the minaret remains the highest structure and the largest mosque in Marrakesh. Local laws restrict any new building projects from exceeding the height of the minaret, providing a focal point for all to enjoy. The Kutabaya Mosque in Marrakesh, with its fountains and gardens, remains the largest and oldest mosque in Marrakesh, Morocco. From Kutabaya Mosque, we headed straight to Bahia Palace. La Bahia, which means the beautiful, is an 8,000 square meter floor-to-ceiling extravagance of intricate marquetry, plasterwork and zouk, or painted wood, and certainly one of Marrakesh's most eye-popping sights. Its grand spaces sometimes play host to important cultural events. The palace has 150 rooms. When Morocco gained independence from France in 1956, the Bahia Palace was used as a royal residence until King Hassan II transferred it to the custody of the Moroccan Ministry of Culture, so the building could serve as a cultural icon and tourist attraction. From the palace, we head out to the souks, the markets of Marrakesh. Whether you are actually looking to buy or just looking, you'll need to fend off dozens of hopeful vendors as you navigate your way through the crowded and noisy alleys. But here, in the sweaty and noisy heart of Marrakesh's Medina, is one of the highlights of any visit to the city. Much of it may cater towards the tourists, but overall, the authenticity has not been lost. This is the trading center of the city, the reason that many hundreds of years ago, people would walk through the desert with their goods-laden camel. Those days may be behind us, but the carts and the motorbikes forcing their way through the bustle are probably even more hazardous. After some goodbyes, we spent the rest of our day with some gelato and tea at the main square, taking in its bustle and hustle. I describe Marrakesh as an assault on the senses. The sights, the sounds, the smells, and the tastes. Truly, a place like no other. We concluded our Morocco North Africa expedition with a trip back to Casablanca, where we underwent COVID-19 RT-PCR swabs before flying back to Manila. To say that this was for us a trip of a lifetime is an understatement. Travel Morocco. Travel Africa. Each day was a unique adventure. Each place a different experience. This is Majestic Morocco. This is amazing Africa. It left me speechless and has turned me into a storyteller. Shukran.